Hey there, folks. If you're enjoying these stories and want to see more, don't forget to follow our channel. Supporting us by subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment really helps us keep going. We'd love to have you with us for this and all our future videos. The strangest secrets of ancient Egypt's Great Sphinx? Well, let me tell you, the Great Sphinx of Egypt is without a doubt one of the most famous ancient statues in the world. But how much do we really know about it? Does anyone truly understand the Sphinx? The hidden secrets behind this monument go far beyond what most people imagine. You might not even realize how little you actually know. For example, no one has officially proven the existence of a hidden door or tunnel underneath it that leads to underground chambers. But I'm convinced there is. I believe there are tunnels beneath the Sphinx's pores that connect it to the pyramids of Giza. During a French excavation in 1837, a secret entrance was reportedly found. Even Colonel Howard Weiss saw it. Yet it seems Weiss and his team were told to keep quiet. At first the theories sounded far-fetched. Until 2019, when actual hidden tunnels were discovered under the Giza Plateau. If tunnels exist, they must lead somewhere. That suddenly makes the idea of a link between the Sphinx and the pyramids sound much more believable, especially if the empty spaces inside the Sphinx serve a specific purpose. But there's still one big mystery. Why were the French archaeologist and Colonel Weiss told to keep it a secret? If it was something of major historical importance, why the silence? Here's a less controversial fact. The Sphinx was carved from a single block of limestone. Considering its massive size, that's unbelievable but true. This giant statue was gradually shaped by hundreds of skilled craftsmen until it became the form we know today. It's 240 feet long and 66 feet high. Over time, extra limestone blocks were added during restoration, meaning its original look might have been slightly different. Even today, with modern technology, building something this huge would be an incredible challenge. The fact that the ancient Egyptians pulled it off with simple hand tools is mind-blowing. And to this day, we don't even know who designed or oversaw its construction. There are no inscriptions on the Sphinx telling us who made it. That's why some people go so far as to say it must have been built by aliens. Speaking of wild theories, what if the Sphinx wasn't originally meant to represent a pharaoh at all, but the god Anubis, who had a jackal's head? Most archaeologists believe the face was modelled after Pharaoh Khafre, but not everyone agrees. Some folks say it might have started out as a lion, symbolizing the constellation Leo, but lions didn't really hold a special place in ancient Egyptian culture. Dogs, however, did, especially Anubis, the guardian of tombs. If you look closely at the Sphinx's flat back and the position of its legs, doesn't it kind of look like a dog lying down? Here's the interesting part. If the Giza Plateau was once a massive cemetery, building a giant statue of Anubis to guard it would make perfect sense. Could the Sphinx's face have been reshaped over time? Definitely possible. And since there are no inscriptions, the mystery just gets deeper. If we stick to the mainstream theory that it represents Khafre, then it was likely built between 2558 and 2532 BC. But there's no solid proof. We still don't know for sure who built it, why, or even what it was originally for. We don't even know its original name. Strangely, it doesn't appear in any Old Kingdom texts we've found. The earliest known name for it was Wakit during the New Kingdom, but many think that wasn't the real name either. The term Sphinx only came into use about 2,000 years ago. So what really happened to the Sphinx? And then there's the famous missing nose. The most popular story is that Napoleon's troops shot it off with a cannon during the 1798 French invasion of Egypt. It's even in some history books, but there's no eyewitness account, no documents, and the timeline doesn't add up. Arab historian al-Makrizi wrote that the Sphinx's nose was already gone by the 1400s, claiming a Sufi zealot named Muhammad Sa'im al-Dar destroyed it, but again no hard evidence. Another controversial theory says European visitors deliberately removed the nose to hide its clearly African features, which, if true, would support the idea that ancient Egyptians were black Africans, rewriting much of history. Others think it simply eroded naturally over time. Speaking of erosion, There's significant geological evidence of water weathering on the Sphinx. If these marks really came from rainfall, then the Sphinx could be far older than we think. Geologist Robert Schoch argues the erosion patterns took thousands of years of heavy, constant rain, something Egypt hasn't seen for over 7,000 years. Based on his research, the Sphinx could be around 12,000 years old. That would completely change our understanding of Egyptian history. Most scholars reject Schoch's ideas, but the water damage is still hard to explain. There's another detail people forget. In the 18th century, the Sphinx was completely buried in sand. Only the top of its head was visible until shifting dunes slowly revealed more. This makes the Napoleon cannon story unlikely. His soldiers couldn't have even seen the nose. The first full excavation wasn't until the 1920s, when French engineer Émile Baraïs spent 10 years digging it out. Before that, several explorers tried and failed. The task was just too big. Honestly, it's hard to believe the Sphinx was buried this deeply by accident. If it was, then one day the pyramids could also be swallowed by sand, which is pretty unlikely. Someone probably buried it on purpose, though we don't know who or why. A piece of its broken beard is in the British Museum, along with plenty of Egyptian artifacts that probably shouldn't be there. Officially, it was found scattered between the Sphinx's paws in the 1800s. But here's the problem. The paws were still buried until the 1930s. The story just doesn't add up unless earlier explorers somehow dug that deep. Even the modern history of the Sphinx is full of gaps, almost as many as its ancient past. Egypt is now trying to get the beard back and maybe reattach it. But the bigger question remains, how old is the Sphinx really? Most experts say Khafre built it around 2600 BC, but it could be much older, possibly even ancient when Khafre was born. If it's over 9,000 years old, then it probably wasn't built by the Egyptians we imagine today, but by a far older, advanced civilization that laid the groundwork for Egypt's greatness. That doesn't mean aliens, conspiracy fans, but it does raise the question, who came before the Egyptians, and what was the Sphinx really for? We've all seen pictures of this incredible monument, but how many of us have stopped to ask why it's there at all? A statue this massive should have started a tradition. Yet no pharaoh after Khafre built anything like it. Maybe it really was a giant Anubis statue, later reshaped into what we see today. If that's true, it would explain the missing inscriptions and lost records. Was it a tribute to a mighty king, a spiritual guardian, or a symbol of a forgotten age? The truth is, we still don't know. Finally, I just want to thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to follow the channel and keep an eye out for future videos. And please subscribe, like,